Let's build some gorgeous and functional floating shelves. They are truly the perfect addition to your kitchen pantry. Here's a detailed list of all the tools and supplies that you'll need for this project. We're almost finished our do-it-yourself butler's pantry renovation, and don't worry, if you still need to create your plan, you can find our planning guide here on our channel. The link to our free cut list and rip list is in the description below. A little quick planning goes a long way, so decide the number of shelves and consider, do you want your shelves equal distance apart or varying? Make sure it's appealing to the eye and follow the golden rule. What will you store on those shelves? And what will you put on your countertop? What's its maximum height? And finally, how thick would you like the shelf to look? All of these factors together will help you decide your proportions. We recommend making a drawing with your final proportions of the shelves, having your total height equal to the distance between the countertop and the ceiling. The spacing between the shelves will depend on how thick your shelves are. So when you're calculating the finished thickness of each shelf, you'll need to remember that the thickness of the frame plus the thickness of the top and bottom pieces will give us the total thickness of the shelf. So you'll need to consider this in your calculations. To decide on the heights of the actual shelves, you're going to need to consider the distance between the countertop and the first shelf. Ensure that you can fit all of your appliances, etc. under there. The average height of the first shelf or of the cupboards above the countertop is 18 to 20 inches, but we recommend not doing any more than 20 inches and a minimum of 15 inches. The spacing between the rest of your shelves is really a personal choice. We recommend making all the spaces equal, which is visually appealing. To calculate your final proportions, just use our simple equation here, and you can also use our final measurements for your example. We always say that a little planning makes building easy, so we recommend drawing lines on the wall where you're going to have the bottom of your support beam and the top. You can put some painter's tape along your wall, and this way you can get a good visual to see if you like the spacing of your shelves. If you're happy with the spacing, you can go on and decide the depth of your shelves. The first shelf should be no more than 10 inches, and we chose 9¼ inches for maximum functionality. If you're going to be using your countertop as a workspace, you don't want to be hitting your head on the first shelf. The depth of the rest of the shelves is totally up to you. We chose 12¼ inches for maximum functionality. Now it's time to locate your wall studs. If you're lucky, you're going to have wall studs that are spread apart far enough that you can actually stabilize your floating shelves on both sides. But depending on the location of your studs, you may need to add a wall anchor to the left and or the right-hand side to ensure the shelves are well supported. We needed to add wall anchors on the left and the right side. And then we hung some antique nails and made some gorgeous hanging baskets to hang from there. Check out our video here to find out how to make these beauties. It's time to build our frames for our shelves, so we need to choose our materials. We used scrap plywood sheets and quickly and easily built laminated plywood. You can save money and use up your scraps. It improves the strength of the shelves and minimizes the warping of boards. To find out how we did this, check out our video here and we'll show you exactly how. But you can also use dimensional lumber like 2x4s, 1x3s, or even 1x2s. However, there will be an increased risk of warping and it'll be more expensive. We highly recommend laminating your own plywood. Check out our video on our channel to find out how. Now it's time to attach our wall braces. The design for our shelves is a simple ladder box frame that's anchored into wall studs. The cross braces are secured to the rails via pocket screws. So first we need to attach the wall braces. Ours are about 2 inches wide by 1½ inches thick. We cut them to the right length and then pre-drill holes and screw them directly into the studs, checking that it's completely level. Then we used a pocket hole jig to drill pocket holes into our wall anchors. This way we could drill them into the corners and have them nice and secure. We used an impact driver for ease of screwing those screws into the wall anchors. With each wall anchor, make sure that you clamp them and then level them before marking where the studs are, pre-drilling and then securing your wall anchor to the studs. You can see here that we had to put our wall anchors on 4 walls, even though our shelves are only going across 2 walls. Another quick tip we have is to place the next wall anchors for each of the shelves on top of the first one once it's screwed in. This way you can easily mark where your studs are and pre-drill your pieces and easily screw them in. It saves so much time. When screwing in your wall anchors for the shelves above the first one, just use a spacer that's the thickness of the wall anchor. And this way you'll be able to just butt it up against there and screw it in. Then just simply repeat this process until all of your wall anchors are in place. Next, we're going to secure the rails for our shelves. Again, these are 2 inches wide and 2 inches thick for us. We wanted to make them a little stronger. So just cut them to length. We used our miter saw, and then make sure to dry fit them. You want to make sure that they fit properly before you end up cutting all of your pieces. We recommend labeling them so that you don't get them mixed up. Then we use the Craig pocket hole jig to drill holes 2 on each side of each end. This Craig pocket hole jig is just amazing. It is so quick and easy to use, and we highly recommend it. We're not affiliated with this company at all, but it's just an amazing tool that we would highly recommend. It makes securing the rails and cross braces and wall anchors so quick and easy. You'll just love it. Remember before you secure the rails to double check the depth of the shelves, remembering that you're going to be adding a front. Using your clamps to clamp them on strong, then screw them in and check that it's level. Then just simply repeat this process until all of your shelf rails are added in, double checking that you have the right width, including the fronts. Adding pocket screws to the front and the backs of each rail will make it very strong. Remember that this first shelf should have a shallow depth to not interfere with the functioning of your countertop.
Hey, honey, what did you measure the lower shelf at?
11 3/4, the same as the other 2.
Oh, you changed your mind.
Oh no, it was supposed to be smaller. Oh, let's start again.
Easy fix.
Mistakes happen to everyone. So remember, we're only human and we're going to make mistakes, but celebrate your small victories. You're actually building your own floating shelves. Next, we need to secure the cross braces. We made these once again 2 inches wide and 2 inches thick for great strength. We recommend waiting to cut these pieces until the wall anchors and rails are secured. This way you can get an exact measurement. To ensure the strength of the corner of your shelves, we recommend putting cross rails on either side of the rail where the intersection happens in the corner. In order to secure these cross braces, we found it nearly impossible to fit our drill and get that pocket screw in. So we recommend securing it on an angle directly into the wall anchor and then securing it through the front by countersinking a hole and drilling a screw directly through the front. In order to figure out where to place the cross rails, we recommend doing each of the sides first and then just splitting the difference between the rest, putting a cross rail about once every foot or so. Then just repeat this process until all the cross rails are secured. You will need one extra cross rail or even just an extra piece of wood right where the corner is so that the top of the shelf can sit on this and be supported. You'll need this extra cross rail on each of the shelves' corners. The final step to building our frame is to add the top and bottom plywood. We chose to use a 1/4 inch thick plywood and just cut it to the width and the length for each shelf with our table saw. Before gluing and securing these bottoms and tops, we recommend you dry fit them and gently hammer them in if needed. Gently hammer in both the top and the bottom to ensure that they're flush with the shelf frame. If not, you may need to trim slightly if your wall is very crooked. One of our top tips is to clamp on the bottom piece and then scribe the shape of the frame onto your piece of plywood. And after you take the clamps off and remove the plywood bottom, you can see where the pencil marks are is exactly where you're going to place your glue. You will avoid the inside squares. This way you can easily avoid glue drippage and make sure to minimize waste. We recommend doing the bottom of the shelf first, and this way you can scribe in this manner. It really helps. Then you'll just lift it up, clamp it, use your hammer if needed to get those corners nice and flush, and then we use a brad nailer to brad nail all along the front and the back edge to secure. To add the tops of the shelves, just glue on top of the frame, place the plywood shelf on top of the glue, and clamp it down once you've ensured that the fronts are completely aligned. Then just brad nail it on in the same manner along the front and the back to ensure the nails have something to go into, and of course make sure to wipe any excess glue away immediately. Then just rinse and repeat, doing the exact same thing for each of the shelves along both sides. Next, we need to add some fronts to the shelves to make them look finished. We chose to use pre-primed boards for the front faces. We cut one end at a 45-degree angle, measured it to length, and then cut the other end square at a 90-degree angle, with the 90-degree angle sitting against the wall brace and the 45-degree angle in the corner. So the distance will be measured from that wall anchor right to the corner, measuring from the longest point of the 45-degree angle to the square edge. Now we're ready to cut our fronts, so we used our miter saw and set it at a 45-degree angle with the wider front side facing you. This way you'll ensure that the 45-degree angle at the corner is facing the right direction. Then measure from the longest point of the 45-degree angle to your set distance and cut at a 90-degree angle. Now we're ready to dry fit and secure the fronts. As you can see, that 45-degree angle fits perfectly. Although you can build these floating shelves anywhere, if you're putting them in your pantry, just make sure to cover your countertop to protect it. Then you're going to place the carpenter's glue on the long side of that 45-degree angle, line it up, make sure that it's level with the shelf, and then secure it with your brad nails. Then just repeat this process for all the other fronts of the shelves, keeping that 45-degree angle in the corner and the 90-degree angle on the wall edge. And don't worry if there's a little tiny gap in that 45-degree angle, we're going to fill that later on. As soon as you nail the front pieces on, make sure you're having a look for spillage of glue. You'll need to wipe that up right away. We're on the home stretch. It's time to do our finishing work. Everyone will do this a little bit differently, but from our experience, here's where we like to use our wall plaster. First, we'll use it to fill the joins of shelf tops and bottoms. We want those shelves to look like one continuous floating piece that goes across the wall. We found using wall plaster the best way to achieve this look, so we just place it on with our scraper and then gently wipe it off. We also find that using wall plaster to fill the nail holes is the easiest way to do it. It creates the most smooth surface. Don't use too much, as using a small amount is the key here. Once the wall plaster is completely dry, you'll just need to give it a gentle sand on all of the joints, and then we like to clean it up with a vacuum and a dry cloth, making sure that you remove any dust before we're going to now use our caulking. We like to use caulking on the corner wall seams, the seams between the back of the shelf and the wall, the side of the shelf and the wall, the seam between the top and the fronts, and all the joins on the front. We like to use a latex caulk plus silicone, which we find works the best. If you'd like to see exactly how we do it and hear all of our tips and tricks for an easy, perfect finish, check out our video here on how to use caulking for a professional finish. If, like us, you needed to add extra wall braces on the right or the left, you'll need to build the finishing pieces to create a seamless look. We use scrap maple and cut it 1/4 inch thick strips into the lengths that we needed. Then we just glued and brad nailed them on to create a smooth cover. You can see the design of that cover here. Then, of course, we finished caulking the pieces for a smooth, professional finish. And here you can see that you can also use caulking to fill the nail holes. Remember that these are floating shelves, so you need to caulk the underside of the shelf because you will be able to see it. And now for the finishing touch. Choose your favorite paint color and give it a good paint. We recommend using an edging brush and a small foam roller in order to prevent any lines being left from the brush, then using a large roller to roll the shelves. And that's it, we're done. We've now built some absolutely stunningly gorgeous floating shelves that are completely seamless and seem to just float on the wall. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please help us out by giving us a like and a positive comment in the description below. Thank you so much. We're almost finished with our do-it-yourself Butler's Pantry renovation plan. Coming up next, we'll show you how we installed our gorgeous wall tiles. Even if you've never installed wall tile before, you can do it with this tutorial. Just like and subscribe to our channel to find out when our next video comes out. Thanks once again for watching all the way to the end. We really appreciate it and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.